Hello, welcome back to BSLIVE. Today we're going to be doing some 3D therapy, and our inspiration today is going to be these beautiful corals that you can find under the sea. You probably you cannot see it unless you are underwater, but yeah, it's really nice inspirations. Take a look at it on Google Photos, and then yeah, our tools today is going to be Smoothie 3D and also some of Blender. Okay, Smoothie 3D is an online free 3D sculpting tool. I don't call it sculpting, but it's more like sketch and carve add-on in Blender. It's very unusual. I just gonna start a new project, right? Okay, you're presented with this when you start, and you can draw like a random shapes first of all, and then yeah, and then you continue drawing on top of these shapes, and the premise is that I think it's smartly attached to the surface of the object. Okay, so I kind of wish that Blender or NomadSculpt have this tool similar to this. Maybe you can kind of emulate it using Spline or any other tools that enable you to quickly draw on something and then attaching it to the normal of the surface. Okay, sometimes it fails and it kind of a little bit offset, so you want to perhaps rotate it. It's not, yeah, this one with Smoothie 3D you can actually bring in image and then you kind of draw on top of it, and it's gonna project the image as well, so that's another thing. But basically, yeah, you can draw shapes like this. I call this like a 3D therapy. Why? Because it's so simple, but you can create like an interesting looking coral this way. Sometimes I believe it misses the spot. Yeah, occasionally it misses the spot, but in general you should be able to draw something. Oh, now I draw something and I don't want it. I just gonna click remove. So each and every shapes is actually like a separate object. If I'm not wrong, you can actually boolean operations using these shapes. But for this, I just gonna make something like this for now and export as OBJ. This is for Blender, so I just gonna open Blender now. I'm using Blender 3.1 alpha, so I like to use alpha, and sometimes it might crashes, but in general it's pretty stable. So this is the one that I just created. Just bring everything in, so you get this object. It's a single object, but you can always separate them if you want to, but we don't need to. So file, save as. This is a Smoothie therapy. The Smoothie 3D app is actually available on the iPad as well, so it's nice. This is like a web app, right? So it's also available as an app on the iPad, and it's with the iPad you can use Apple Pencil, things like that. That's why this can be like a 3D therapy. You can be on the sofa, you can be on the toilet, and you can do like 3D doodles. So now back in Blender, let's take a look. Our wireframe, okay, it's pretty simple, right? The shapes, you can always use a remesh modifier and then try to find a better remesh, like better topology, or you can use this remesh over here, quad or voxel. Let's use this. Usually this is how I clean up a lot of manifold and things like that. Let's do it twice actually, using remesh here and then apply, Command A, and you might want to use quad, but before you do that you want to use voxel first, voxel remesh, and occasionally it fixes some of the problem. Yeah, this is actually not too bad. Let's go inside and then just merge vertices, just in case there's extra vertices. You can now actually save this smoothie. Okay, now you can go to sculpt mode and start sculpting. So you don't stop here. Of course, you can start sculpting and adding details or removing details. You can try using cloth filter like inflate. That's always, oops. Yeah, it crashes because I'm using Blender Alpha. I should have used a different version, but I believe it might have some really weird surface going on, but sculpt. Anyway, let's play with this further. Snake hook is, you might want to play around with this, and with dynamic topology turn on, and see what you can do with this. You basically can pull out mesh. That's dynamic topology, and increase the radius. Yeah, you can just pull surface like that. So it's like you're becoming like you're like creating plant. So there is no rules here. You just, you have to free yourself and just try to create interesting looking shapes. So like a coral or like a cactus, whatever, it's a things like that's branching, maybe like a tree. But I mean, I know you can automate the process of creating of a tree, but this kind of thing is also pretty relaxing. It's a manual process. You can of course use something like a skin modifier to do this kind of shapes. Oops, occasionally it's looking pretty bad. You can use shift and smooth it. Now if you want to do like a quick painting, you can always use Vertex Paint and start just spray paint. Right, you can right click and find the color you like and just start painting. This is also part of the therapy. I found that the most enjoyable is 3D painting, of course, but you need some brushes that make you kind of like make you happy, because you have a lot of brush to play with, and that's for that I recommend Procreate on the iPad. Probably I'm not gonna do it today, but Vertex Color is okay. It's like the simplest tool in Blender where you can just paint color and then you can blur. Average is actually the cool one. With average and Vertex Color, you can do this really fast kind of blurring of color. It's very unusual that you can do that, and then you can later bake this color as a texture. So if you go back to object mode, you think, okay, oh no, I lost my Vertex Color. It is actually still there, so don't worry. This is Vertex Color, and you can render this out. Let me right click and shade smooth, go to shader editor. So we have material already. I'm gonna shift A and Vertex Color, and then just bring in the Vertex Color and plug this into the base color. That's the basic thing that you can do with this method. You can turn on subsurface scattering. You can plug in the color into subsurface. It gives this nice colorations, very soft looking. Now you want to add a bit of roughness maybe, and metallic, so it's kind of nice, okay, to be able to do this. So that's basically the process of 3D therapy. Okay, so you can start again, start new project. Leave the page. So new project, we are presented actually with a couple of tools. The one we are using here is this one, smooth shapes. There is this revolutions. Okay, so you can start with revolution. This is also something that you might want to consider. Okay, after you do that, you can try the shape. This is also kind of relaxing. This is a good 3D therapy. What you find interesting is that it's with this tool, it's drawing this extruded shape, right? And you can still select them, and then you can make symmetry. So this time you are making like, okay, it's like a 3D character, right? Cool. Now let's create like maybe like a nose or the eyes. They're all like invisible and behind the surface. Unfortunately, maybe it's a good idea to, when you draw it, you then bring it out. So it's trying to follow the normal, but occasionally just doesn't do the job. So yeah, I guess I guess you can always like go to the different view and then, you know, like draw this like a coral shape. You might think that this app is really crude, you know, like why is it so basic, and why do I even show it to you? Because this app actually, no, it's super basic, but it's also super relaxing, super easy to use. That's the point. I wish that all 3D tools is like this, simple to use. It's not always the case. So I just give it a like some random color. We're gonna exchange it, export it as OBJ. They should just call it export OBJ, but anyway, we have this, right? Now let's create a new one. Let's bring in our coral creatures. In Blender, you can basically do a lot of things, a lot of processing, remeshing, UV projections, things like that, all of the cool stuff. You can even mirror if you want to mirror this. Oh, okay. Seems like it's doing, it has some crazy thing happening, so we're just gonna remesh it. But if you remesh it, the material will disappear. So something to keep in mind. That's okay, I guess. Hit apply, and then you can mirror. Yeah, this is pretty fancy looking. It's okay. So let's save this. Coral creature. At this point, you probably, okay, you think you're done with it, or you just, you know, wanna do further sculpting. You can sculpt with symmetry on and try to smooth some areas. Okay, the head is actually hollow, so that's okay. Maybe you want to turn this into like a stick character on stick. Yeah, why not? You're free, basically, with the 3D therapy. You're free to create anything. Okay, clay actually adds some kind of detailing. It makes it looking more like a clay. You can use shift together with just with the clay, and sometimes you want to use control. Yeah, starting to get a little bit more complicated, but that's okay. You can, yeah, you can add details like for the eyes, things like that. Inflate, smooth. Which one do I like? Draw with the dynamic topology turned on can give you ways to add details. If you want to add details around the eyes, for example, so wherever you do like a painting, it's gonna add more details there. Like you can add an eyeballs there. For example, this nose, you can add detail like that. The ears. You can use tools like maskings and things like that for proper detailings. But in this case, you don't need to worry. Maybe you can add a belly button. Now, if you're happy with this shade smooth, you can start Vertex Painting. Again, Vertex Painting, you can just pick a color, start painting. Yeah, just random painting. I recommend Procreate. You might need to do the UV beforehand, but yeah, Procreate is a good one to try also. Something fancy here, fancy around the eyeballs. Maybe I should have do like a remesh beforehand. It's not a good idea. If you want to do like a proper painting before you send it to Procreate, go to edit mode. Oh, I think some of the detail is here is pretty crazy. You might want to do like a proper quad. I guess, okay, for now, let's try quadriflow remesh and see if this is actually working. Oh, it doesn't like it. It's okay. It's becoming like this elephant looking character. 20,000. Yeah, okay, I think be careful with decimations, and it creates this really weird looking result. Oh well, for now, just try Smart UV. It does it. Maybe it's. It seems to be failing as well. I wonder why. Face orientation. Okay, there's a really weird surface there. I need to fix it using remesh. I think this remesh does the best job. And then we can use Smart UV project. UV, unwrap. Smart UV project. Okay, now it's showing up. That's weird. Okay, it has material already. Create texture, base texture, color. Okay, let's give it a color. All right. Still have hole on the top. Okay, the paint tool in Blender is pretty basic, but you can still, I mean, if you spend some time on this, you can actually paint some decent looking texture, and you can actually use image texture and things like that. But I found that, okay, Procreate has better tools and can be faster. But Blender one is not bad, really. You can predefine some of the color, and then you can send it to Procreate. So currently the symmetry is turned on. You can have eyeball that's have different color. Adjust the radius. Turn on symmetry once again. So we are already like far away from our original design on a Smoothie 3D. But let's save this anyway. File, export, GLB. GLB should bring in the texture, if I'm not wrong, into reality converter. So we have this GLB. You can turn this into AR. I might actually try. Yeah. This is like a quick work, right? You can then send this into your iPad, Procreate, and it has the UV and everything for you to continue working on it. So this is the UV. Basically, it's automatic UV. With a proper workflow, you of course want to do like maybe like retopology and then a proper UV seam and then do the UV like properly. But for like a concept or for like a quick artwork, if you're just gonna send this to, for example, to VR lens or things like that, you can just export as GLB. You don't need to worry too much about smart UV, really. So this is my VR lens. I can just add my creations just now. VR lens also supporting like vertex color, so I think you can just drop it. Yeah, so cool. Cool creations, 3D therapy. So back to our coral. So this coral is of course just made of vertex color. It's nothing too fancy. File, export, GLB. It should include the vertex color. Yeah, by default. So let's upload once again. Smoothie therapy. That's a cool name. That's actually a 3D scan of an apple that I made the other day. Ah, okay. That's our creations. So yeah, I think this is a pretty fun 3D therapy. You know, I recommend you to try doing this. You might end up with hundreds of different corals or weird sculptures that you can put, and then you can put on a VR lens and you can share it to your friend. I think that's it's a fun little activity that you can do while you're relaxing. So anyway, Smoothie 3D and Blender and VR lens. Hopefully you find this interesting. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.